Welcome to this week's episode of Esports Wrap. I'm your host, Michael Amargan, and this week we're going to be talking about NASCAR. More specifically, NASCAR and its esports origin. It's a little weird in the fact that technically they've kind of already gone into esports before, but I might be jumping the gun just a little bit. Let's get into this. So, NASCAR, along with the Race Team Alliance and iRacing, have started its own esports tournaments. Now, this is a little different than what they would have done previously and what one racetrack has actually done with NASCAR Heats 2, and where they did their own little tournament at the racetrack. What this is that it's simulation racing, or in this term, sim racing, that iRacing is apparently very well known for, and they've actually been doing it for a few years. But these events are said to start before the 2018 racing season, but there are doubts that it'll actually make it in time for the Daytona 500, which is on February 18th, if I remember correctly. And that's actually the season opening, which is what they were trying to aim for, I believe. Now, for those wondering what iRacing really is, the description that I got essentially said that iRacing is a subscription-based racing simulator that's more advanced and technical, offering for hardcore race fans and actual racers themselves than arcade-style racing video games. Now, that last part kind of got to me a little bit, and the fact that, yeah, while I grew up, I saw arcade racing games quite a bit, and yes, they are not quite the same thing as actually driving. You turn just a little bit and you are almost about to go off the road in those arcade style, just because it doesn't have a full dynamic range for the steering wheel. It's locked in to like right about here and there, and that's it. Now, while arcade games gave in a certain realism, and then again, not so realism, considering that some of them had dinosaurs roaming about, and like they actually allowed you to go on off-beaten paths that cut through jungles and mountains and stuff like that to then beat your opponents who are probably racing on the side of you. It gave a nostalgic feeling towards it, and I think that's something that NASCAR is trying to pick up on in another aspect. But we'll get to that part in just a little bit. Getting back to the actual esports tournaments element to it. Now, like I kind of said at the beginning, this isn't their first racing... Well, this actually isn't the first racing entity to actually even get into the sim racing tournaments or anything like that. Formula 1 actually started it. Formula E is already... Formula 1 and Formula E are already involved in efforts involving their series, and then F1's team, McLaren, actually launched its own competition last year that saw the winner signed as an official simulator driver for the team. So this kind of already started their own league for it, and there's a lot of different things that they're doing for these sim drivers, or sim racers, however you want to call them. Now, the official iRacing website states that iRacing is the proud host of 3 separate esports world championships series in sim racing. One of them is actually already a NASCAR one, and it's called NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Racing. Well, series racing. And so it's kind of already a thing where it's like, isn't this kind of your foray into esports already? Like, isn't this already a tournament that your name is already branded on? So it's got me a little perplexed. But maybe someone inside the audience can help shed some light in the Twitch chat. I don't know if you guys want to, or you guys know. Or if you're watching on YouTube, feel free to put in the comments and let me know. But each one of these particular Series championships apparently offer already a $10,000 prize pool. And the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series is their world championship for oval drivers, professionally sanctioned by NASCAR and sponsored by Peak Auto. Now, they have two other ones, which is the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, which is equivalent for their road drivers, and their Blank Pain GT Series is their world championship for endurance teams, professionally sanctioned by SRO Blank Pain. So they already kind of are well established, and they actually do have quite a lot of tournaments and quite a bit of a history as well when you actually take a look at it. They've been there for like a number of years doing this kind of stuff already. So it doesn't surprise me that someone like NASCAR and the Race Team Alliance is also teaming up with a company like this. Not only that, but it kind of, they have the simulation technology that places you like if you're actually racing. So it's very well done, and I'm actually a bit impressed with how they're planning on doing this. Now, their teams have started working together, so that's NASCAR's teams have started working together, with multiple sources saying that it's based around NASCAR's chartered teams creating a pro iRacing league full of skilled players who will be drafted by the organizations and compete against one another for money in tournaments streamed online. So essentially, yes, we're going to be looking at these things online, and so far, to me, it seems that it's going to be on iRacing.com and probably hosted on YouTube. That's where their videos seem to already be, and it seems like that's probably where they're going to be doing their live streams. So we probably won't be seeing this on Twitch, but who knows? This is something completely new. NASCAR and the others, essentially, may decide to go over to Twitch. They may decide to stick to YouTube, or they may go over to Facebook's new offering that they're trying to start up with Facebook Live and the Creator Program and so on and so forth. Check the episode 20 of Esports Wrap for more information about that for Facebook's. Now, while the teams have started working together, I lost my bearing just a little bit. So, okay, let me start over. It's based around NASCAR's chartered teams creating a pro iRacing league full of skilled players who will be drafted by the organizations and compete against one another for money in tournaments streamed online. Right. So, other details that I got also stated that under the business plans that people have seen so far, that teams will commit to a 6-figure payout. So that can range anywhere from $100,000 to $999,000. Now I'm guessing that's probably going to be around $300,000 to $500,000. Or, you know, it might just be the $100,000, $200,000 kind of range. But I don't see it going over $500,000, to be quite honest. Not, at least not initially. Now, so that's for the first tournament, and they're planning on holding a draft where all chartered outfits, so essentially all of the teams, will pick up the most skilled players who will then represent them in competition. Each chartered car from teams in the RTA, that being the Race Team Alliance, of which there are 30. So we're already seeing, 30 different teams so far that have actually decided to go for this, will receive a franchise. Now, these cars will likely carry the same paint schemes as their actual teams, providing a value added to their sponsors. The plan is to stream the races online through distribution. Those distribution is still being determined. Options would include NASCAR.com or possibly Motorsport.com. I still don't see either of those places being able to really host an online stream, especially with the numbers that they're probably trying to look. So we're still probably looking at going to the websites to watch it, but also it being hosted and like handled by another partner, like YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. Or they may surprise me and actually manage to do it all on their own. But this is an interesting thing. Essentially what they're saying is that they'll be picking their own racers. They will then give them cars, online cars, with the same paint jobs as those of the professional players in the real world. Meaning that, say, if you want to go with one of the main ones that are currently out there, then some of the oil companies, some of the like McDonald's and food chains and other places that typically sponsor NASCAR would then get the same sponsorship online, driving the exact same car. So you're hitting multiple audiences like that. And that's an interesting concept, because that allows you to maybe get some more money from your sponsors to say, hey, well, we're no longer just TV, we're no longer just real life, we're also putting your branding on our cars in the digital world, and we're getting a new audience base. That's the key thing right there, the audience base. NASCAR has actually been noticing a decline when it comes to the younger audience. And they're actually using, well, I would dare to say that they're going to be using the esports element to it to try and get some of the younger audience back into racing, or at least doing it online, competing against other people. You might not have the chops to drive like that in the real world, but you might have the chops for it to drive online, or to enjoy your favorite streamer or sim racer, tear up this circuit, and I don't know. It's an interesting concept, and I'd like to see what actually goes. Now, I kind of mentioned it before as well, that NASCAR was working with iRacing before, and they kind of have their own thing going on, or at least NASCAR's branding is there, and that's been in place since 2010. So essentially, this has been something I believe that's been in the works for at least a decade. Well, sorry, almost a decade. And it's only just coming into fruition now. They're actually seeing that, you know, this is still a thing. Esports is really starting to take off now. It's time to really jump on the bandwagon, especially since its competitors like Formula One and stuff like that are already there. But that's not everything. And this is where it becomes interesting. At the racetracks, yes, there was the one racetrack that decided to do its own tournament using the NASCAR Heats 2 game. But what if there was a truck that was fully loaded with gaming equipment that allowed you to compete at the racetracks with using your favorite car against other people that are there at the tracks? I think that would be a fairly interesting thing. It might be really good to bring your kids out as well, have them play. You might enjoy playing against some people as well. It might be a fun little family thing as well when you really think about it. The father, son, mother, daughter, everyone pretty much getting together and playing together, if that's your thing. Or you can take your best friends or friends and race against one another. There's no actual statement saying that these on-site racing trucks are anyway linked to the league, but I personally believe that these might actually be a mechanism to get people interested in racing on the computer or racing via a console, and then getting them to actually play or at least watch the sim racing games that they're planning on coming out with later on this year. Probably end of this month or middle or somewhere thereabouts. Now, for this circuit, there are over 20 racing tracks that have already agreed to it. And they're looking to do it on racing weekends. Now, it's, again, the idea is still supported, and it's said that they're going to be inside these specially equipped trucks that are fully loaded out and everything like that. But if you want to give it a try, you know, it might get you into the action. for all you know, it might actually be a precursor to get into the actual leagues. You do well at the tracks, you might get a special invite. This is the thing that I hate about this. There's enough information out there to whet your appetite, but not enough to say definite details of how this is going to work. It's only very vague stuff. A six-figure payout. It's going to be at the racetracks. It's going to be online. You're going to get teams, so on and so forth. But no nitty-gritty details. Apologies for that. Now, here's a question though as well. Are they going to use iRacing for that? Or are they just going to use consoles and stuff like that using their NASCAR Heat 2 game? There are a lot of people that are saying that they probably would prefer it to be iRacing just because of the actual feedback and everything like that, and the level of professionalism that happens with iRacing. Quite literally, there are teams that use iRacing as a training mechanism for their racers while they're off the track to improve their skills and response times and stuff like that. So that also remains to be seen. Yes, Jay Bruce, I think iRacing would be probably the best choice in my personal opinion. Just because of the level of sensations, details, the feedback, and even the amount of things that they have in that game or in that system. Because it's not just NASCAR cars that they have quite literally a bunch of other cars. And they have cars spanning across different times as well. So you never know. There might be some really interesting things. They might throw you back into racing from 2 decades ago and using cars from them. Or they may just make it so that the difficulty is real life and you do need the skill that, you are mentioning, Jay Bruce. And I think that would be really cool, because then that kind of gives everyone an experience to say, this is how racing is. I am doing well at it. And it might start, and here's another thing, it might actually start the younger generation to say they want to become racers. Or it might help them bolster their, how do I put it? Their experience and love of racing and become an even better fan, or more hardcore fan, I should say. So overall, I think this is a really great idea. I commend NASCAR for this. I commend the race Team Alliance, and I'm impressed that they went with iRacing and collaborated with them for this. I can't wait for more details. Unfortunately, I probably won't be able to attend any of the on-track events because I live in a completely different country. But I look forward to watching them online and hearing more about it in the future. And I hope the very near future, considering February 18th is just weekend after next. At least during this particular stream and recording. But time will tell. Until next time, everyone, this is More Cookies and Esports Wrap. Don't forget, we have another show, Tech Talk, on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And Esports Wrap will be back next week, Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. That's it for this episode. I'd like to thank my followers who have actually decided to follow me within the past few days. There are actually quite a few of them, and the names are actually kind of hard. So I apologize for not calling off the names. And I'd like to thank Jay Bruce for coming in and chatting with me today. So until next time, take care.